is basically a wristband with a companion app, and you can use a compass with and without the app, and it will talk to you and tell you the directions, and also, I believe, vibrate, and it also has sonar so that it can detect, people in front of you and obstacles, but and also like overhead, tree branches and then limbs and things. And in addition to that, he has decades of UI and UX experience, along with being on the board of directors for MAD and also MABI, which is one of the largest organizations in Massachusetts. He has his postdoctorate in physics and his PhD in chemistry, and his desire is to bridge the gap between technology and accessibility, and enable people like us and others to be more independent. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So can I use the one up here, or do you want me to?
Well, if you stand
this
here,
active?
you should be hopefully.
Okay, so this is very good. Okay, so my job is done. Thank you so much. I know this is the last I think this is the last conference for the day. First of all, I want to thank the Norrie Research Association for hosting me and inviting me to take part in this amazing event. I've been learning so much, both online and even in the little bit that I've been here. So again, thank you to everyone who took the time to invite me and for being here. I think the work that you're doing is amazing. The organization here, I've had the pleasure to get to meet and work with a variety of organizations across the world who are also solving really hard problems and bridging the gap, making life more accessible and bringing out independence for people with living with any type of disability. Myself, I grew up in Puerto Rico. I was born legally blind with albinism, and I live with low vision. So living with low vision my entire life, I've pretty much experienced a lot of the things that come with living with a vision impairment and trying to access my urban environment, my city, trying to read a menu, to going to school. Accessing textbooks and information. I always said that one of the most exciting things that happened for me as a person with low vision was when Apple came out with the iPad. The reason for this is because the iPad and ebooks expanded my ability to actually consume content. When I was growing up, and this is like the 1980s, so I'm going to date myself a little bit here. Growing up in the 80s or so, I had my handheld magnifier, and I could only go through pretty much one book about every 2 months, give or take, right? Because it was slow going with the magnifier and a lot of work. And I love reading books. I love reading crime and crime noir and solving murder mysteries novels. With the iPad and ebooks, what that did, it opened up the floodgates for me, and now I consume a book every week. So my Kindle library is pretty much exploded, and with the iPad and ebooks, I'm able to adjust the font and just access a lot of fun and interesting books. And with that, I'd like to open up and say we are living in an exciting time today, because technologies like the iPad and the iPhone and smart devices, Internet of Things, are opening up a plethora of opportunities for people who are living with any type of disability, whether hearing loss, whether it's vision, cognitive, motor, mobility, or even learning. The plethora of technologies that are coming into market today is really exciting. It is closing the gap and improving accessibility to content, information, navigation. Even urban environments like the city of Boston are now becoming more and more accessible because of technology. However, buyer beware. Technology is not the end-all, be-all. And this is, my big piece of advice for everyone is that when we approach technology and we consider what it could do for us, we also have to consider its limitations and where this technology can take us. So approaching technology with, with the attitude that this apparatus, this thing, can solve certain problems, but it's also up to me to become more aware, more proficient, to study it, to train on it, is also going hand in hand with the gadget or with the thing that you want to use in your daily living. So we started Sunu back a couple years ago here in Boston, Massachusetts, and in Guadalajara, Mexico. It actually started out as a community service project for the blind in Guadalajara. Our initial beginnings basically was a service project at one of the Helen Keller schools in Guadalajara, where we noticed how children who are completely blind were playing at the playground and also going through orientation and mobility lessons. Orientation and mobility lessons in Guadalajara is taught basically once a week. It may differ, obviously, it differs around the world, especially here in places like at the Perkins School where you have top-notch O&Ms training every day with students. In other parts of the world, it's not as accessible. And so we noticed that kids every Thursday would struggle in their orientation mobility lesson throughout the city of Guadalajara. It's one of the second largest cities in Mexico. However, they would definitely love and they were always excited for Thursdays. Thursdays was like their big day because for them, when we asked the kids, why are you so excited? You struggle so much. Well, it meant that for them, they would get out of school and they would get to experience part of their city and they would get connected with their community. And so kids would struggle through the lessons and they would work really hard at it to become what we hope today is to be independent. Independent cane travelers or independent guide dog travelers, right? And so we started Sunu at this school because we brought one of our early prototypes and we asked the question, what do you think? Would you mind trying this out for a little bit? And it was a rubber prototype and it had a bunch of wires sticking out. And basically it was a wristband that they would put on and they would feel certain vibrations when they would encounter objects. And the first thing that we noticed is that they were taking to it really fast because they wanted to run around and play tag. Okay, well that was like, you want to do what now? You want to run around and play tag and leave your cane behind? No. Let's take a step back. And we got them actually working with their O&M instructors because they were wanting to take it out on their O&M lessons. And the instructors noticed that the tool was actually helping during her lesson. It would help the students basically verify what they were being trained on that day, whether it was shorelining or whether it was a certain technique. The tool was helping them engage more in the lesson. Well, that caught the attention of parents and teachers at that school and pretty much got us on this whole path to creating Sunu. This problem is much bigger than just a single school. As you very well know, mobility is a worldwide problem. Access, navigation, the access to information, from anything to knowing what street you're crossing to how do you know that you got to the right address, to even knowing when it's your time to cross the street, and also avoiding accidents along the way. And what I mean by avoiding accidents is that unfortunately for anyone who's living with a sight impairment, whether it is low vision on one side or completely blind on the other end of the spectrum, accidents unfortunately are a frequent occurrence. So accidents to the body, the upper body, and to the head are very dangerous, right? Those could lead to trips to the doctor or get medical attention for those type of accidents. I'll tell you my own personal story. When I moved from Texas, so I just completed my PhD in chemistry, and I was moving from Texas to Boston. And I was really excited because in Texas, well, there's no public transportation. And I had to walk everywhere. And walking a Texas block is a lot. They say everything is bigger in Texas, right? So that's one of the things that, walking in Texas, it's a lot of work. So when I was about to move to Boston, I was really excited because I'm like thinking, this is a city with a world-class public transportation. I'm going to have no issue getting around. Until I discovered Boston sidewalks, especially during trash day. And then winter came. And that's when things started to get really interesting. And I started discovering bruises all over me. And then I've had a couple of run-ins with branches because they weigh heavily down during the winter time. And living in Boston all of a sudden took on a different meaning for me because it was like, yeah, on one side I have a lot of access with public transport and buses and the train. On the other end, it's like navigating obstacle courses when I get to anywhere I want to go. And myself, like many people around the world who are low vision or who are living with sight loss, whether it's because of diabetes, glaucoma, macular degeneration, tend to avoid using any specific aid that is for the blind or visually impaired. Now, for those of us, for those people who are avid white cane users or travelers or use a guide dog, that's fantastic. You have basically a great tool to get around, to guarantee your next step, and to navigate. But for millions of people around the world, the ability to actually deal with accidents and just basic mobility and navigation becomes an unsurmountable problem. And what happens is that people become more and more inactive, and they also become depressed. And so when we were thinking about this problem, this is basically the slide talks about 285 million people worldwide. In the U.S. alone, that's around 10 million people. Actually, that number is much larger because the CDC reports that about 20 million people, we're expecting 20 million by 2020 to be living with some form of vision loss, severe vision loss because of macular degeneration or glaucoma. And again, 25 million people in Europe, but we're not even counting the developing world and developing countries. And so this whole problem, when you think about mobility and navigation and access, it's actually pretty huge, especially for those people who are on one side of the spectrum that are losing their eyesight. People like myself who live with low vision, who don't use the traditional aids, and the traditional aids, well, because of my residual vision, don't work as well for me as a person or as my friends who are completely blind. Then actually, how can we create technologies? And we started asking ourselves this question: how can we create something that could complement mobility, could complement your abilities to sense your environment, and open up the doors to navigation and be able to access what's around you? So after a couple years of research and development, we've worked with, especially working with some of the largest institutions for the blind, like the National Federation of the Blind and the Jernigan Center in Baltimore, as well as with the Perkins School for the Blind. Since 2013, we started research and development on the Sunu band. And we're very excited and very proud to introduce Sunu band. It came on the market this past November. And pretty much we've been, as a small company, we are having trouble keeping up with demand. Pretty much right now we're sold out on the Sunu band. And it has been very exciting to see the response from people who are interested in actually using it today. And so what we've done is created a product that is to empower independence of mobility, but also independence of navigation and access to information. The Sunu band, as our friend mentioned in the introduction, is a smart band that uses sonar and combines the smart band with our mobile application. And what we've done is we created a platform that enables this product to work in conjunction with services like Google, services like Lyft and Uber, and soon services that connect to public transportation around the city. So I'm gonna go ahead and gonna explain really quickly how Sunu band works, and I'm gonna come to the center of the room. The Sunu band uses the sonar and to detect obstacles or objects that are within the environment. So how does sonar work? A sonar basically is you think of it as a speaker and a microphone all in one. The ultrasound sensor, the sonar sensor emits an ultrasound wave or ultrasound. And, oh, thank you so much. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So the sonar sensor emits an ultrasonic wave, and the ultrasound, which is a high frequency that dogs or we as well cannot hear. But this sound wave basically bounces off and interacts with objects that are within the environment. This is very similar to how bats and dolphins navigate in the wild. Okay, they emit ultrasound, and they use a thing called echolocation. An echolocation essentially is using these high-frequency sounds and echoes and how these animals listen for the echoes to then orient yourself and be able to then navigate within a space or an environment. Now we're doing the electronic equivalent with echolocation, and again, the device that I have on my wrist right now is our latest Sunu band, and it has a little cylinder that's embedded on one of the ends of the bracelet. It's been designed to actually be in this specific position because when I bring my arms to my side, the sonar sensor is facing right ahead of me. And what it's doing is it's emitting ultrasound, and it's listening for the echo, the sound waves that bounces off of these objects. Now, the important thing about Sunu band is that it takes these echoes, it listens for these high frequency echoes, and it transduces these into vibration feedback. And we actually call this haptic vibration feedback. Haptic vibration feedback basically is vibratory information that is basically provided back to the user. We use vibrations to communicate information back to the individual. This is different than just simple vibration or tactile feedback. With haptic information or haptic vibration feedback, we can tell you how close you are to an object, how far away, or we could tell you other things like, for instance, the time of day, or we can also tell you if you're facing north, south, east, or west. Haptic vibration feedback is intended to provide a new level of awareness to the individual. So what Sunu band is doing is that it is augmenting my own personal awareness and my ability to perceive objects that are within my surroundings. So when I'm walking about, and how I use Sunu band practically is I basically walk around and I aim or point the sonar sensor in the direction that I'm walking or the direction that I want to get information from. I want to know about objects that maybe are to my right, to my center, or to my left. Or if I want to find those pesky tree branches, I basically slightly aim the sonar upward, and then all of a sudden I'm getting awareness to tree branches that are within my sidewalk or in my neighborhood, and I know which neighbor doesn't trim their tree branches. And I'm also able to avoid those and not get any scrapes on my head. So our users, and that's a very simple way of, a very simple basic explanation of the Sunu band. But our users right now in over 32 different countries are reporting that the Sunu band has reduced accidents by 90%. That's huge, right? That's no more trips to the hospital or no more bruises, right? And I'm very excited when I talk to one of our users, whether they're adults or children or teenagers or even seniors who are using the Sunu band and saying that, hey, you know, now I can avoid bumping into into a glass door or bumping into people in the line. We've noticed that Sunu band, that people who are using the Sunu band will actually adopt it to their own particular scenarios. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, in my case, my biggest scenario or my biggest concern are tree branches. Well, we have people using the Sunu band to walk in the park or to basically navigate indoor spaces like in their office or at their school. We have a couple kids who use it to find the doorways and navigate the inside of their school when basically kids are walking about in the hallways. And we have also, folks in university who are using it to navigate their campus. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just See if I can turn off this mic real quickly. I think I got it. With the mobile app, we can actually now bring in a variety of applications for the Sunu band. So for instance, the first one, which I'll show you, is our times feature. Basically with Sunu band, when you're not using the sonar sensor or you're using it for navigation, you can use it as a vibration watch, and in combination you can turn on our voice services to use it as a talking watch. So I can simply swipe on the touchpad.
15 hours, 8 minutes.
And I can receive time information via vibration code. We're using a standard vibration clock code that is used around the world to provide that information to the user. Or the person can basically hear the time of day with a Bluetooth headset, or if they're using an in-ear earbud or hearing aid, they can also use a Sunu band to basically access the time. Well, when you're using the sonar mode, I'm going to activate the sonar.
Outdoor sonar mode.
Now in the outdoor mode.
Indoor sonar mode.
Now we have two modes. Specifically, we have a mode that is specifically designed for indoors. This mode allows you to navigate these indoor spaces because it has a smaller range at 4 to 5 feet in front and lower sensitivity to enable you to find doorways, enable you to navigate around crowds, and it's also very useful for more confined spaces like indoors. The other mode that we have is an outdoor mode or long range mode. It enables you to navigate spaces like outdoors with a detection range of 16 feet in front. You can simply swipe between, you can switch between both modes by swiping on the touchpad and easily basically toggle between these two modes by a simple swipe on the pad. With outdoor mode, it's perfect for those outdoor situations where you can detect tree branches. It has a much higher sensitivity and a much longer range. The longer range in the outdoor mode basically allows you to sense objects before you actually detect it with your cane, or before you're, if you're in a situation where you're walking with a sighted guide, it enables you to also be aware while you're walking with a sighted guide. The idea here is that you should not, you still be able to have control. Even if you're being guided by a sighted guide, you still be aware of what obstacles or what objects are around you. We also have a, and we're taking this whole concept of mobility navigation to a different level now. You think of the Sunu band as pretty much a tactile Apple Watch. And I'll use that comparison. I know that Apple's, hopefully here, no one from Apple is in the room. But instead of using screens and flashy LEDs, there's nothing on the Sunu band. There's actually no screens, no LEDs. We simply have two buttons and a touchpad. So I can access applications within the device by simply clicking on one of the buttons.
Menu, phone finder app. To start, double tap.
I have an application to find my phone for those of us who are very forgetful and lose stuff. Keep track of your phone with that.
Compass app. To start, double tap. Entering northeast.
So I've activated our compass, and if I get lost in the city, I simply bring my hand up.
West, northwest, southwest, south, southeast, east, southwest, west, northwest, north.
We have over 10 different sensors
southwest,
that monitor the position that we have in space. So we can actually monitor exactly where you are on the map on Google. So for instance, especially for me, since I have low vision and I like to know what's across the street, I like to know what places are around me in the city, especially when I travel. I want to know like where's the next Starbucks or restaurants and stuff. I open up our menu.
Menu, phone finder app, compass app, place finder app.
Open up our place finder.
Entering place finder app.
And now I can start looking for
TD
categories. Bank. I know there's a TD Bank somewhere.
No train station nearby. Subway station. Store. Beacon Hill Market.
And then I can actually
Finagle a bagel.
The store is.
Finagle a bagel. J. Pace and Son.
Or to the left.
JPace and Son.
I can then click.
Finagle Abate, Whole Foods Market or swipe to select another place. Getting directions to Whole Foods Market.
I can get directions
Navigation to Whole Foods Market started. Tap and hold the Sunu band at any moment to exit navigation.
I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. And so what we're doing is we're connecting the Sunu band now through our mobile platform to Google, and we're using augmented reality to provide you information about places that are around you. We can tell you if the place that you want to go to is to your right, ahead of you, behind you, to your left. We know that if you're walking north, south, east, or west. And then we can use the combination of vibration feedback, of haptic vibration feedback, along with audio cue to guide you to the place that you want to go. This is just the beginning for Sunu because we are a platform, and what we're developing here is a platform that can one day connect to smart crossing signals and provide you information about when it's time for you to cross a street, and as well as tell you which street you're crossing. For instance, you can know if you're crossing Cambridge Street or if you're crossing another street that's to your left, so that way you can get the right amount of information for you when you're at that moment to cross the street. We're very excited about what we've been developing, and we have basically worked with a variety of experts in the community. Folks who not only in the blindness community but also in low vision community as well. Folks in albinism, within the albinism community, retinitis pigmentosa, glaucoma, and these are just some of the folks who have seen us grow from a prototype to a now ready product that's now on the market. And what we want for Sunuband, and what we want to become, is basically the platform that complements and basically brings about that independence from anything from just moving about in your home to accessing everything about your city, getting your next Lyft or your Uber, basically empowering independence. That's what we want to do. We want to basically empower independence. We're also creating a variety of tools that work with O&Ms, or orientation mobility specialists, to measure rehab, to complement the trainer and the trainee while they're undergoing travel training or rehabilitation. We're developing a variety of applications that leverage the computing power behind the Sunuband and our mobile app to enhance rehabilitation training. So just to be fair and talk about what's out there in the market, what is out there when it comes to electronic travel aids? Well, on one side you have devices that have been typically mounted on canes, devices that, this whole field of electronic travel aids has been around since the 1980s. Some of these devices are costing within a couple thousands of dollars. And then you have kind of on the other end, the more affordable devices that you can clip on or wear as a glass, an eyeglass. We're actually the only device that is currently out there that is intelligent and that connects to a platform and is fully customizable, meaning that you or your specialist can actually adjust the range and sensitivity of how the device will work for you, and you can adjust Sunuband completely to fit how active you are and what scenarios are you most you care about, so that way the device works best for you. A retail for the Sunuband is $299, and that kind of gives you a comparison between other assistive technologies that are out there currently in the market. There are even devices that are in the couple of thousands. We haven't listed those yet. So who are the people working at Sunu? Who's the amazing team behind this invention and who've been working, who are very passionate and have been working with me on this project? Marco Trujillo and Quali Padilla basically initiated this project back in Guadalajara, Mexico. Both Marco and Quali are experienced engineers in mechatronics, meaning that they have experience in electronics and mechanical engineering. And together they have developed over 5 different award-winning assistive technologies. Sunuband is the first of these technologies that is being commercialized. We are looking at different areas, whether it's hearing, motor, cognitive, different type of areas that we see in exciting opportunities for technology to bring independence for anyone living with a disability. We're also working with world-renowned advisors. One of them notably is Daniel Kish. Daniel Kish, I'll just make a parenthesis here. He's an orientation and mobility specialist, but he's one of the few O&M specialists in the country who's completely blind. And Daniel basically uses the human form of echolocation. He clicks, and he's able to hear. He's trained his brain from an early age to actually sense the echoes within his environment. He's able to navigate in an extraordinary way. Daniel's foundation and his team of O&Ms are teaching this technique, and we've been working with them since 2013 in developing our training and tutorials. We definitely see the importance of education, of training, as an equal and complementary part of our technology. And so this is why we care about and we want to partner with experts like Daniel Kish. In a very short amount of time, this is pretty much where we've been. We have won some of the largest competitions technology-wise around the world, and then now have taken our product and we're in 32 different countries. That's just pretty exciting. And we are now starting to ramp up our production, and that way we don't have to be on back order and having people anxiously waiting for their new Sunu band. So that's starting right now in the fall. Right now, and actually the end of August, we'll begin shipping out our newest batch. So we are a champion of disabilities through technology. We believe in a world where disabilities no longer will be a source of pity, any reason for not to be independent. We believe that technology can be an excellent driver to augment our own human abilities. And so this is what we're working tirelessly every day. And with that, I want to thank you guys so much for having me here, and I'll take any questions. Yep.
Via email, you did say that if people are interested, there will be a discount code for the conference available.
Yes, that's correct. And I sent that conference code to you?
Yes, I have it. I have it. So
great.
we'll, if anybody would like more information, you can email me or we can get you guys in touch. All right, Aaron has a question. Yeah.
Had you, had there, have you ever thought of stuff like communication learning center? Or? Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Oh, Anthony. Anthony's our question asker officially for the day. Always.
There I am again. I think for the last time in this conference room. Anyhow, last question or question about this. What about compatibility with Android? Do you have your app also ported for the Android phones?
Yes, we have our app already compatible with Android.
Okay.
And we're also thinking about compatibility with other devices for the smart home. So for instance, we could think about, there are a variety of devices that could provide assistance in the home, from anything from smart doorbells to monitors in your kitchen. With our platform, the Sunu band can basically communicate to any type of device with Bluetooth. So it uses Bluetooth Low Energy to talk to my smartphone. But essentially, we could connect to indoor beacons. We can connect to devices that have Bluetooth and are enabled to provide a lot more information back to the user.
That's interesting. Then very last one, is it, in what degree is it necessary to run the app next to the device, or is it also possible to just use it independently?
Oh, that's a great question. So when we created Sunu Band, we envisioned the technology to be as simple as basically when you receive it, you open it, and you're ready to go out of the box to use the sonar navigation features and basically use it without the app. Now, we recommend that you also have the app so that way you can receive the latest updates and access other applications that do require the use of the smartphone. But the basic use of the Sunu band can be done without the mobile app or without even a smartphone. Now, with the Sunu band, we've been designing our app so that you can use the device in the most simplest form, or go into the app and start customizing the device to your liking, meaning that you can then later on will be able to turn on more advanced echolocation features. You'll be able to tune how the echolocation works for you. But these are applications that will only be available if and only you want to turn them on or off. So that way we give you the flexibility to use it in the most simplest way, or then to start turning on the more advanced and the more complicated features.
Right, then I guess I can only say that it might be very interesting for all of us who are, for Norrie reasons, not able to do the human echolocation, and this might potentially provide an interesting alternative. Thank you very much.
Hi, let me first start off by saying thank you for coming here and providing us with this information. I was wondering about age appropriateness for children. You said that you went to some schools, but you didn't specifically say what age range you were dealing with.
So we worked with children from the age range of, I think, 8 and above. Our kids, when we started the project, were on average 8 years old. We've worked with close to 50 children in Mexico, and also during our initial testing with the Perkins School for the Blind, and basically, we basically can use a device. It's compatible with children, above the age of 8 who have been taking some initial orientation and mobility lessons.
Okay, so I've actually had one of these for like a month and some, and I've been testing it, some basic stuff on it, and I have different specific questions about it, but the one I really want to ask right now is, when you do something like the Compass app or the Place Finder app or something like that, I've never really, in the Compass app at least, like I haven't really been able to interpret the vibrational features yet. So I'm wondering how the haptic feedback in the Compass app, the Place Finder app, those more specific apps and things like that.
Yeah, great question. In the Compass app, when you activate the Compass, one of the first things that you want to do is basically bring your arm to your side. And the reason for this is basically we have like 10 different sensors that are getting information and actually measuring, feeling the magnetic north on the Earth. So basically give it 5 seconds when you activate the app, and then when you bring your arm up and you feel a steady, constant vibration, that means that you're facing north. Okay. And if you're facing south, then the vibration that you would feel is a staccato sensation. It's like da, 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 da. That's the type of vibration that you'll feel when you're facing south. In all practice, all we need to do is give you only one sensation for one of the cardinal points, and then you're able to then deduce the other 3. So with the north being a constant vibration, once you start feeling that constant vibration, you know that you're aiming north, then you're able to then distinguish between the west and the east.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Just because in the when you have the voice services on it, I see that it does the north, northwest, northeast, things like that. So I wondered if you had put that into the code, but.
Yeah, we recently put that in to provide you the voice information about the direction, about the cardinal direction, and in fact, we added in a couple features where you can even get more specific, meaning that you can know what degrees if you're facing north, what degrees you're in. You can customize that within the app, and I'm happy to show you after the talk. If you want to get into more details about knowing more precise where you are on the compass, or even just as simple as knowing north, south, east, and west.
Okay, thanks.
Hi.
Hello.
Every time I see people, blind people swimming in a swimming pool, always there is another person with a stick touching the head or the shoulder of the swimmer in order to let him know where the edge is. Can this technology, this sonar technology, be used for that, functionality? I mean, in order to let him know where the border is or the edge is?
Like a lap swimmer. If
Yes.
Yeah.
So the short answer is that yes. The interesting thing about this is that in order for people to use this type of technology in an environment like a pool or like in the ocean, a couple things need to happen in terms of the sonar itself, as it needs to be a waterproof device, and then it also needs to account for the movement of the hand of the individual, right? Because when you're swimming, you're moving, you're actually doing quite a lot of movement, right?
Maybe it could be just on the neck or the head.
Exactly. So we have to take into account the directionality of the sonar, because sonar technologies or these type of sensors, they're like flashlights. They're very directional, and so in that application, we would have to very consider how it's worn, and then how it's aimed, so that you can detect the edges or the ahead of you, and when you're in a pool.
Okay.
Yeah, God, this mic is just pretty bad. And I'm trying to make myself louder because I have to turn my hearing aids up, so I don't know. Oh, okay. So my question is, I actually can see this device coming in handy, like if it were waterproof, like the Apple Watch, like if you were swimming and you were competing in races and stuff like that, like. Yeah, the vibrations and stuff could tell you where the people were, so you'd be able to avoid them. I don't know, that sounds kind of interesting. But, me with Norries, I think other people would agree in here, like, our primary problem is that we might be able to navigate, but we can't cross streets. We can't hear the traffic, unless there's audible signals, which there are some in Boston, but doesn't seem like very much. We're kind of stranded, so I don't know. I guess my question is, like, what technology can be used to sense cars? And yeah.
So I hear two questions, and these are very good questions. And let me just start out by saying that crossing the street, it's a huge problem, not just for anyone with Norrie, but also for everyone in general. Especially living in Boston, it can get pretty dangerous out there. Even as a person with low vision, knowing which side of the street that I need to cross, how much time do I have to cross the street? The thing here is that with Bluetooth technology like Sunu and smart crossing signals that are now becoming more and more available in cities, we can essentially connect to that today and provide you the information to cross the street. In other words, when the crossing signal is ready for you to cross, and then how much time you have to cross the street. We're also, but we also need to think about the cities and what's involved on the municipal and the city level in order to upgrade a lot of those crossing signals to the newest technology. I was in recently a couple months ago, I was on a conference call with the folks from New York City, and they were actually putting up a challenge for this particular problem. It's like, how can we create more intelligent crossings in New York? And out of the huge amount of numbers of crosswalks that they have across the city of New York, only a tiny fraction of it, say maybe 5% of those, are of the newest technology, or quote unquote the smart signals. Your second question about cars and how do we detect moving vehicles, because I know that smart cars are also a big concern for pedestrians and also cyclists. Again, nothing that's making any noise. You know, it is a huge concern. Right now with Sunu ban, we'd never recommend to use it solely to cross the street. In other words, to detect an oncoming vehicle. The reason for this is because the Sunu ban only provides you up to 16 feet of detection away, although it's sensing in real time. And so when you think about a vehicle that's traveling at maybe 5, 10 miles per hour, that's not enough range to safely allow you to avoid the oncoming car or the cyclist. So at this time, you know, we wouldn't want to use Sunu ban to actually use it or rely on it to avoid vehicles, whether they're bicycles or even cars. Perhaps in the future with even LiDAR technology or different type of sensors that can give you that big range and faster feedback to the individual, that could be possible. But at this time, you know, we're only limited by the power that of the actual sensor itself.
All right.
Okay. Can I ask one, Allison? One quick one. It's really funny because we went to Alexandria. We're from Virginia, and we went to Virginia, and Nathan has a friend who lives in Alexandria, and he said, oh, there's a bunch of audible street crossings in Arlington. So we drove up to Arlington, and sure enough, they have. And so we Googled, you know, where in the United States can you find audible street crossings? And it's like, and the same with smart street crossings, like if you're going on vacation or staying somewhere, it'd be really nice to be in the part of town where he could go somewhere on his own. You know, you have smart street crossings. Is there any way, this kind of off your product, but kind of similar, is there any site or anything that lists, like Department of Transportation, that lists, you know, smart street crossings, audible street crossings, you know, throughout the United States? Because you might stumble on one maybe in 5 years, unless you know somebody who's been there, done that, and says, oh, go here, like outside of New York City. Where do you like to go, Nathan? White Plains, New York. They have a lot of audible street crossings, probably because there's so many guide dog schools in that area. But do you know, is there any resource? I mean, so we can use what's out there now?
I would love to find out if there are any resources. I do not know right now, at the top of my head, that there's someone curating and even putting these on a map. It's definitely a possibility to do that, but I haven't found any type of resources at that. And I even met with one of the manufacturers of the intelligent cross signals or crossing signals, and that actually did not come up in our conversation. One of the things that I would also note is that the audible crossing signals that you'll find in the city of Boston are using over 5 different type of audibles to let you know when to cross the street. So you'll hear anything from a bird, a cuckoo, to drum beats, to something that sounds like machine gun fire. It's one thing that I think that we need to start asking government is to standardize this. Now, I hear that there is a standard and that there only should be certain audibles available. But I think that this is something that needs to be worked on the city level. They need to start thinking about standardizing this. And also on top of that, because we already have audio, why not provide information about the street that they're crossing and or how much time they have when they're getting to the other side of the street. Again, it's about providing the right amount of information and the right information when you're at that moment of crossing the street. Good question, though. I like the idea of curating and presenting that information to travelers.
So you mentioned that the range of this is 16 feet and that you wouldn't recommend it for a street crossing. But so in Seattle and a lot of other cities, there's a lot of bike lanes now. And one of the things that's happening is there's some bus stops that are kind of in the middle of the street. You have to cross over the bike lane first. Would you recommend using this for that, since you're just crossing that one lane and just making sure that there's no bikes passing?
Again, I always, even when I'm using it, because bicycles are a big concern for me, I'm always relying on all my techniques not just on the Sunu band, to cross that bike lane, because some bicyclists will slow down, but some bicyclists do not slow down when they're reaching the intersection, and they're coming full speed. So again, you're looking at a bicyclist who may be traveling 5-8 miles per hour just because they want to avoid being stuck on the light of the intersection, and that's where things could get dangerous. You always want to rely on your technique to cross, to make that crossing complete.
But would the device alert you of something that's going 5 or 8 miles an hour if it's right in front of you?
You will feel the vibration. The device will work, but it's a matter of you being able to react enough when you feel that vibration. You need to have enough time to process that vibration and be able to react to it. And you're only talking about less than a few seconds.
Right. Then my other question was, so the audio from this device, does it have a built-in speaker, or how does the audio, how do you listen to it?
Yeah, so the audio works through your phone. It's basically providing audio through the smartphone. The device does not have a built-in speaker.
I just have a quick question. I was confused. Is it water? Can you use it in water?
The device is not waterproof. It's only water resistant, and just like any electronic, you want to minimize its exposure to like the elements, rain or snow. I've used it in both situations, but it's not waterproof, and you shouldn't use it like in a pool or the ocean.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, we have any more?
Huh.
No? Okay, and will you hang around for a couple minutes?
I will,
Somebody has
yes.
an individual. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Get in touch with any of the board members. We have the coupon code if you're interested. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll put it up, and then.